Good morning. This is Pastor Phil at our house, West Casa, at HC4, Hope Connection Christian Community Center. And I just want you to spend a few minutes with me this morning going over some game changer truth for your life. We're going to talk about how love conquers all this morning. The signs of good love. In John 6:28, he said to him, "What shall we do that we may work the works of God?" We've been talking about this, right? One of the things you need to do is be made perfect in love. The gospel of love heals, repairs, restores, empowers. It encourages and challenges. In John's later on, he says not even his brothers had faith in him. We go down to the bottom of it. He said, "I show the world how evil its deeds really are." John 7:9, I show the world how evil its deeds really are. Jesus shows the world by taking good and taking love. Wow, that shows the world what's not love and what's not good. John in his letter, later in life, says there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear because fear involves torment. He who fears not been made perfect in love. We need to throw out fear. Love puts fear in the trash can. The Greek term cast out is the same as casting out a demon. Maybe you have a spirit of fear. You know, Paul said to Timothy, you need to get rid of that spirit of fear, Timothy, whether that's the way you acclimated yourself in life or whether there's an actual spiritual demonic force called fear harassing you. Cast it out with love. Move into love. Push that thing out of doors with love. In John 13, he says, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another. As I have loved you, that you also love one another." You know, love casts out isolation. God never meant us to be isolated. God never meant us to be alone. And if you have feelings of aloneness, you have feelings of isolation, feeling of rejection, feeling of not being accepted, then real love has not come in and cast that out. And I'm telling you this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever you're watching this, real love can cast out isolation and rejection. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He does not know love, does not know God, for God is love. We can be made perfect in love. Love can cast out us. It can cast out our self-rule, our self-righteousness, our consuming with ourself, believing that our whole world revolves around us. It really doesn't. The world revolves around Jesus Christ. The world revolves around God. We can know God. Would you like to know God? Would you like to be His friend and have Him be your friend? Because that's what love does for us. But we need to know God to know love, and we need to know love to know God. Real love. Let's talk about real love. Now look at this room. Our lives are like this room. There is something everywhere. If you walk into this room, you just have to tiptoe through all of the toys and the fans and all of the objects in the room. But what happens if the room is dark? What happens if you can't see anything in the room? And you walk through and you stub your toe and you kick your shin and you begin to believe that life is like that, because life is like that. Life is just like that. We are walking around in the dark. Love is the light, and without the light, we are walking around in the dark. And all of this that we stumble into, all of this that hurts us and causes us pain, we can't even see what it is. We want to give names to it, but we don't know how. We are walking in a dark room, stepping on little army men that hurt our feet and cause us to wince and cry, rejection and pain and abuse and loneliness. All of these fears begin to enter in because the light's not on. But God's design is patience and kindness, that love would bear all things, that love would believe all the good, that would endure all things, would hope all things. There's a commitment and a constraint when we're made perfect in love. God's design is that we would stay committed in our families forever, till death do us part, in sickness and in health. But we don't live that, do we? Because we don't live God's love. That we would constrain ourselves, that husbands would serve their wives, and wives would respect their husbands, and husbands would respect their wives, and wives would love their husbands. That there would be a constraint, that we wouldn't go outside the bounds of our relationships. We would have boundaries in our relationships. We would endure pains. We would endure problems. We would stay with each other. We would keep our hope up and our focus on the future. That's God's design. That children would have parents that love them, that fathering would be fashionable, that men would come in, stay in, and be in. But that's not what happens in our life, is it? Fear comes in. Divorce comes in. Abortion comes in. Abuse comes in. Violence comes in. Rejection comes in. The inability to satisfy my dad comes in. All of these items come in and bring fear, but that's not God's design. God has a loving atmosphere in design, an accepting atmosphere, a forgiving atmosphere in His design. But what happens is when we get into that dark room and stumble around, we have to have a solution. We have to find a way to explain it. And we explain it emotionally in what I call relationship DUI, driving under the influence. With romance and infatuation and control and hormones and violence and abuse, we get into a driving under the influence. We get into a relationship that's infatuation. It's not love at all. And because it's not love, we don't get the results of love. We're not made perfect. We try to control each other. We have a romantic love, but we don't have the love of God. We don't have that love that it has commitment and constraint and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and self-control in it. It has other control in it. And even in our lives, when this happens, chemicals like dopamine are released inside of your body, and you are literally under the influence of drugs, thinking that you're under the influence of love. Young men and women see this a lot. Oh, I love her. She's going to be my friend forever. And you're 14 years old, and by the time you're 14 and a half, somebody else is your love forever. That's infatuation. That's not love, but it builds rejection. It builds pain. It builds because of a misunderstanding and walking around in that room darkly, we get into an emotional love. And then later on, we start thinking that's the way it is, so we turn to alcohol, we turn to nicotine, we turn to narcotics, we turn to behaviors that are destructive to all those around us, and we call that love. But really, we're driving under the influence of emotion, of romance and infatuation and control and drugs and alcohol and all these other things. And we don't know what love is, and you can't be made perfect in this kind of love. We start to think like this: I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. I must not make a mistake. I must be perfect. I'm not worthy. I can't do it. We just get weighed down by emotions. And then sometimes we get into what we call logical love. Natural law says, well, first there's the force of love, and that seeks truth or knowledge, and then we get an internal rule over our own life, and then we have a freedom which allows everybody to do anything they want, and that's supposed to be order or good. That's not order or good, but that's what logical order or good. That's what the politicians would tell you order or good is. That's what the philosophers would tell you order or good is, but that's not God's order or good. It's certainly better than fear, which is a refusal and denial of truth, which builds ignorance, and fear, which is an internal anarchy. We're just confused all the time, or fear that causes us to control other people, which ends up in chaos or evil, and certainly it does. But I'll tell you, in the normal, logical, what the world calls love and what the world calls fear, both end up in a place that's not God's love, that's not perfect, that doesn't cast out fear. That is the way the world versions life, logically. So here's that room again. When we connect with the perfect love of God, when we connect with Jesus the Christ, wow, with the cross of Christ, with the Christ who came to us to show us love, we can see a little better into the room. And the more we spend with God, we can see a little better, but it's still not as clear as it needs to be. And then we see a little better. The more we get with God, the more we love, the more we communicate and commune and love each other, and other people love us, we can see more. But when we really get into the love of God, we find ways to clean the room up. We take all the junk off, and we know where all the furniture is, and the light is bright because the light of love is always there. And we're not tripping and falling. We are enjoying our life in the light of day. I hope this is making sense to you. And you're going, wow, I want that love of God? How can I get that love of God? Well, you know, the love of God starts with Him first loving us. God so loved the world that He sent His only Son, Jesus the Christ. He initiates love. We don't initiate love to God. He initiated love to us. And then next, we begin to understand that we're forgiven. We begin to understand that He who didn't know sin took our sin. He took our punishment, because perfect love casts out the fear of punishment. Fear brings with it the thought of punishment. Love throws that away. That fear of punishment goes away. That acceptance in Christ comes in by grace, by a free favor, a free gift of God. We are offered entrance into a relationship with Him forever. Surely forgiveness is offered to all, and grace is offered to all to enter into that relationship, but not all take it. We respond and enter with faith. We believe, we accept, we receive that incredible love of God into our lives. And then we enter into a kingdom that's like no other kingdom, into relationships of serving other, God serving us. My gracious, what an incredible, beautiful thing God does to serve us. But as we serve, as we give love, God puts love into us and we give love. We serve inside the house, we serve our families, we serve our community. We give that love out and we take care of others even as we take care of ourselves. Because of the love that's inside of us, we begin to grow and that room becomes more clear and more clear and more clear. And then what happens is God begins to move into the rooms of our life, into the rooms of fear, into the rooms of rejection, into the rooms of pain, into the rooms that just nobody we don't even want to go into. In the rulership, the kingship of Christ moves into those rooms and begins to rule over our life. It's not about us controlling our life. It's about Him controlling our life and His love controlling our life. And His ruling that controls over our life takes us until we are living in love. And in this process of living in love and forgiveness and grace and entering into a new place and serving out of our beautiful new life, and then Him ruling over it, and it's just a never-ending cycle, stepping us up higher and higher and higher and stronger and stronger and stronger into the kingdom until that whole room that we live in is well laid out, ordered, cleaned up, in a pleasant place for us. But it doesn't just happen in a moment or overnight. It starts in a moment. And we may have one place in our life that needs the love of God to just reach in and break the power of fear, break the power of isolation, and move us into the place of serving and allowing Him to rule and living. And that's what we're here to see happen today. What do we do to work the works of God, the love of God? We come to Him. We come to Him. Now I'm going to pray a clip out of a song, and I want you to stay with this song and listen to this song, and at the end we're going to pray. This is very much a part of God touching and working in your life.
Come out of hiding, you're safe here with me. There's no need to cover what I already see. You've got your reasons, but I hold your peace. You've been on lockdown and I hold the key. 'Cause I loved you before you knew what was love, and I saw it all. Still I chose the cross, and you were the one that I was thinking of when I rose from the grave. Now rid of the shackles, my victory's yours. I tore the veil for you to come close. There's no reason to stand at a distance anymore. You're not far from home, and I'll be your lighthouse when you're lost at sea. And I will illuminate everything. just throw off your fear and come running to me. Oh, 'cause I loved you before you knew it was love, and I saw it all. Still I chose the cross, and you are the one that I was thinking of when I rose from the grave. Now rid of the shackles, my victory's yours. I tore the veil for you to come close. There's no reason to stand at a distance anymore. You're not far from home. You're not far from home now. Keep on coming. And oh, as you run, what hindered love will only become part of the story. And oh, as you run, what hindered love will only become part of the story. And oh, as you run, what hindered love will only become part of the story. And oh, as you run, what hindered love will only become part of the story. Baby, you're almost home now. Please don't quit now. You're almost home to me. Hey, baby, you're almost home now. Please don't quit now. You're almost home to me. Yes, you are. Now, baby, you're almost home now. Please don't quit now. You're almost home to me.
So let's pray. I will get what I need. Father, my friend here will get what they need from you, and they will give what they get to others, because your love will enter in and change their life. They will meet with you. They will enter into your courtyard, into your gates of praise on your terms with your people. They're going to enter into a local church. Father, I pray that they come and join us at our house at HC4, Hope Connection Christian Community Center here in Gainesville. But Father, they're going to enter into some local church. I don't know where this person is. They could be in Pakistan this morning. They will get what they need from God because they will give what they get to others, and they will meet with you on your terms. Father, let them come to you this morning. Let your power reach in greatness and in glory and explode, and let love throw out the fear. Let love throw out the isolation. Let love throw out their self-rule and be replaced with God rule in Jesus the Christ. This is Pastor Phil at our house at HC4, Hope Connection Christian Community Center, here in Gainesville, Texas, saying perfect love can rule your life every day in Him.